Ah, fools. They always swore they had you mapped like a quiet constellation, small, harmless, predictable. The agreeable one. The one who would nod, smile, stay within the chalk lines they drew around your feet. They mistook your stillness for submission, your silence for emptiness, your patience for weakness. How adorable, their confidence. How fragile, their little illusion of understanding. They thought they were the hunters, and you the gentle creature wandering conveniently into their expectations. But then you moved. Not with noise, not with theatrics, but with one precise, deliberate choice that cracked their comfort like thin glass under pressure. And now look at them, eyes wide, breath uneven, minds racing, staring at the board like it reorganized itself while they blinked. They're trying to count your next steps, but panic makes math impossible. They don't even know how many moves you've been hiding in silence, waiting, sharpening, arranging like a shadow they never bothered to study. They feel it now, the shift, the ground tilting, the air tightening, their certainty dissolving grain by grain. They used to predict you with lazy confidence, convinced you were a safe variable in their little equation. But now their assumptions lie at their feet like dead leaves, and every second they glance at you, something in their chest tightens. Because you didn't just step out of the role they wrote for you, you tore the entire script from their hands and lit it on fire with nothing but a change in posture. You are the quiet disruptor, the soft earthquake, the storm that doesn't roar but rearranges everything in silence. Watch them. The ones who once interrupted you mid-thought now choke on their own words. The ones who smirked at your calm now avoid your gaze like it burns. The ones who dismissed you as harmless now pause before speaking, measuring every syllable as if the wrong one might reveal more of their insecurity than they want you to see. They'll pretend they're just busy, pretend they're distracted, but their nervous system betrays them, shoulders stiff, fingers fidgeting, eyes darting like they're searching for an exit they didn't need yesterday. Your move wasn't loud, that's why it hit like a meteor they never saw falling. Loudness is easy to dismiss. Quiet precision is impossible to ignore. You didn't try to humiliate them. You didn't stand on a table and declare your transformation. You simply shifted, and the ripple turned into a wave inside their minds. Because subtle disrupts in a way spectacle never can. Subtle makes them wonder how long you've been operating above them without their notice. Subtle forces them to question not just your strength, but their blindness. And there it is, the psychological warfare they stepped into without you ever raising a hand. They thought they had control over the narrative. But the moment you moved, they felt it slipping through their fingers like sand. People can rationalize anything when they believe they're in control. But take away that illusion, and you awaken something primal in them, fear of the unknown, fear of unpredictability, fear of being wrong about someone they thought they owned. They tell themselves it was luck, a coincidence, a fluke. But at night, when the noise fades and their masks fall off, they replay the moment and feel the truth gnawing at them. It was design, it was deliberate, it was the version of you they weren't ready for. You didn't evolve to prove them wrong. You evolved because you outgrew the way they saw you. You stepped out of the shadow they built around you, and for the first time, they have to face the reality that you are not someone they can predict, control, or categorize. They don't know if you're a threat, an ally, or something entirely different, and that uncertainty is a toxin that spreads through their thoughts like a slow-burning fever. You dismantled the script they relied on. They used to know exactly where to place you. Now you are an undefined variable, an unpredictable force, a presence that shifts the temperature of every room you walk into. And humans fear what they can't define. They fear what doesn't behave, the way their old stories told them it would. Now their hierarchy is shaking. Not because you fought them, but because you stopped playing their game. You simply walked out of the cage they decorated and called normal, and now they're standing there with the door wide open, wondering how long it was unlocked. They're realizing the control they believed they had over you was nothing more than a shared delusion, and nothing terrifies people more than discovering their power was imaginary. Watch them scramble, watch them overcompensate, overanalyze, overcalculate, as if adding more layers to their mask will hide the cracks forming underneath. Watch how the ones who once dismissed you now mimic your tone, your phrasing, your posture, desperate to understand the blueprint you've been building in silence. They'll start watching you like a threat they can't point to, whispering about your motives, speculating on your next move, obsessing over your quiet. Not because you are dangerous, but because their illusions are dying. Your silence becomes a blade they fear. Your stillness becomes a strategy. Your confidence becomes a mirror that exposes their insecurity. You've turned their certainty into chaos without ever raising your voice. Now they're living in a world where you are no longer a predictable character in their story. You're the plot twist that rewrote the entire arc. And the worst part for them? They don't know what comes next. Their imagination, once their comfort, is now their tormentor. Because every what if leads back to you. Every possibility ends in unanswered fear. And you don't have to do anything. Your existence is enough. Your presence is enough. Your evolution is enough. The real fear is not in what you did, but in what they now know you're capable of. And that, my friend, that was only your first move. But the real beauty begins after the first move, doesn't it? The way the air shifts, the way the atmosphere thickens, the way even silence becomes something heavier, more electric. You can feel it, can't you? The subtle tightening in the room whenever you speak, or worse, whenever you don't. Your quiet has become a force all its own. They used to overlook you in that quiet. Now they fear it. Now they read into it, dissect it, panic over it, as if your silence were a coded message they aren't qualified to decode. You've become the question they can't answer, the variable they can't solve, the presence they can't prepare for. And that's the sting they're trying to swallow. Because your single shift didn't just challenge their assumptions, it shattered the confidence with which they built those assumptions in the first place. They aren't doubting you, they're doubting themselves. And once self-doubt cracks a person, it spreads like heat through cold glass. One insecurity fractures into 10 into 100. Soon they're second-guessing parts of their identity that had nothing to do with your move. That's what your presence does, it unravels them from the inside out. They'll walk away from conversations with you, replaying every word they said, wondering if they revealed too much, too little, or the wrong thing entirely. They'll lie awake trying to understand what exactly changed, why you feel different, why you look different, why the space around you feels charged like a storm about to strike. But the truth is painfully simple. You stopped shrinking. And when someone stops shrinking, those who depend on their smallness feel the earth tilt. And oh, how they tilt. Suddenly, their voices crack in places they can't control. Their confidence stutters. Their laughter comes too loud, too forced, too late. Their carefully crafted masks slip at the edges. They study your face when you're not looking, trying to see if you've noticed the shift in them. But of course you have. You've always had a sharper sense for these fractures than they realized. You feel the change in their posture. You sense the unease in their tone. You see the calculation in their eyes as they try to determine how much of their old script still applies to you. Spoiler, none of it does. Because you're not operating from the old you they wrote in their minds. You've evolved into a version of yourself they never predicted, not louder, not angrier, not dramatic, just sharper, cleaner, more exact. And there is nothing more threatening to people who live in illusions than someone who has grown precise. That precision cuts through pretense like light through fog. You don't need to expose anyone. You don't need to confront anyone. People expose themselves in the presence of someone who can see clearly. They begin over-explaining, justifying, apologizing for things you didn't ask about. They reveal their insecurities in places you never looked, because clarity is a mirror, and mirrors terrify those who've gone too long avoiding their own reflection. You're not dangerous. Their denial is, and now the rumors begin to move. Not whispered by your critics, whispered by the people who suddenly don't know how to define you anymore. Little stories, half-truths, exaggerations, fragments of anxiety disguised as conversation. They'll swear they aren't talking about you, but gossip is just fear with better shoes. People only talk obsessively about what they can't understand. And right now, you are the mystery their minds are trying and failing to solve. They gather in small clusters, exchanging theories like amateur detectives. What changed? Why now? What are they planning? Did something happen? Are they trying to prove a point? No, you're not proving anything. You're simply existing in your actual size. Their panic is self-inflicted. And the more they talk, the more you grow in their minds. Not because you've done anything new, but because fear requires expansion. Their imagination is building a version of you that is bigger, sharper, more capable, more unpredictable than even you realize. They are writing your myth for you. And myths do not shrink, they grow until they fill every space where uncertainty lives. This is how legends form, not from declaration, but from the quiet fear of those who miscalculated you. Every time they whisper about you behind closed doors, they carve your silhouette into the walls. Every time they warn someone else to be careful around you, they widen your shadow. Every time they replay the moment you made your move, they script a new chapter in your story. You don't even need to speak for your presence to ripple outward. You are amplified by the tremors in their voices. Fear is the best marketing department you never asked for. And now watch what happens next. The shifts aren't just emotional, they're social. People begin repositioning themselves around you, subtly rearranging their alignment the way armies do when they sense the opposing side has gained unexpected territory. Some grow more polite, some grow more distant. Some grow more curious, some grow more threatened. But all of them, every single one, grow more aware. Awareness is a currency, and you've just become the richest one in the room. Their behavior changes in micro-gestures. You see it in how they straighten up when you walk by, how they pause mid-sentence to gauge your reaction, how they suddenly soften their tone or sharpen it depending on which mask they think might protect them. You are not demanding this. Their fear builds the stage for you. Your power is not what you do. Your power is what they believe you are capable of. And belief, especially, self-created belief, is the most unbreakable chain. They'll say, you intimidate them, but that's not the truth. The truth is simpler, harder, and more humiliating. You unsettle them. You unsettle them because your move forced them to acknowledge a version of you they never accounted for. You showed them a depth they didn't predict, a level of thought they couldn't keep up with, a quiet confidence that doesn't ask for permission to exist. They are intimidated not by your presence, but by the possibility that they were wrong about you this entire time. And nothing rattles the human ego more than realizing it underestimated its opponent. Now they're scanning their memories, reevaluating every past interaction, wondering what signs they missed. They're rewriting history in their minds, trying to convince themselves they always saw the potential in you, even though their past behavior betrays them. Revisionist memory is their last defense. They tell themselves, this version of you is new, but deep down they know the truth. This is who you always were. They just lack the eyes to see it. This is the part that cracks them open, the part that keeps them awake. If you had this power all along, what else have you been holding back? What else have you been capable of? What else will you reveal when you decide it's time? Your unpredictability becomes their obsession. Your silence becomes their paranoia. Your calm becomes their undoing. Every room you enter becomes a quiet battlefield, not of violence, not of conflict, but of shifted gravity. They feel the weight you carry now. They feel the intelligence humming beneath your composure. They feel the unpredictability in the way you take your time, speak when it matters, and refuse to react to their attempts to regain control. Nothing terrifies a manipulator more than losing the ability to trigger you. You've taken that away, and now the dynamic has inverted. They used to watch you for weakness, now they watch you for signals. They used to test you, now they study you. They used to expect you to follow their lead. Now they wait for your move before making their own. But the greatest shift, the one they don't dare admit, is this. They fear you not because you've become powerful, but because you've stopped being predictable. Predictability is comfort. Comfort is control. You have removed both. Now the emotional battlefield expands inside their minds. Every interaction with you becomes a calculation. Every silence becomes a threat. Every movement becomes a question they cannot answer. And the part that eats at them most, you're not even trying. You're simply being. You don't need to attack. You don't need to defend. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify. You are the mirror that reflects their fragility back at them, and the mirror terrifies more than any blade. This is the cost of underestimating someone who was never meant to be small. And now they have to live in a world where you've stepped into your real height, your real depth, your real strategy. And the world they built, the one where you were predictable, is already collapsing into dust. And you're just getting started. And now comes the part they fear the most, the aftermath, the quiet between storms, the space where nothing outwardly happens, yet everything continues shifting beneath their feet. It's the silence after your move that weighs on them like a storm cloud refusing to break. Because silence is not absence. Silence is suspense, and suspense is a blade pressed lightly against the mind. They expected you to strike again immediately, to validate their panic with a second dramatic shift. But you didn't. You let time stretch. You let them sit in the tension they created in their own heads. And that patience, oh, that patience, terrifies them more than any action could. People can brace for impact. They cannot brace for possibility. Now every day feels like they're living in the shadow of a move you haven't even made yet. They analyze your tone in conversations as if your voice carries hidden algorithms. They watch your expressions, searching for clues that aren't there. They replay past interactions, wondering which moment was the turning point. They're trying to rewrite the script mid-performance, and the more they rewrite, the more lost they become. Because they still don't understand the truth. You've stepped into a different narrative entirely, and they're scrambling through the pages of an old one. Your power now isn't in motion, it's in presence, in restraint, in the quiet mastery of someone who no longer needs to prove they can shake the ground because everyone already felt the tremor. And the irony, the more still you remain, the louder the echo of your move becomes. Their fear has become ritual, their anxiety, routine, their obsession, habit. You've become a constant in their thoughts, not through force, but through gravity. You bend the room, the dynamic, the energy, without lifting a finger. And that is the type of influence no title, no status, no authority can purchase. Influence born from presence, not performance. This is what truly unsettles them. They can mimic your words, copy your style, imitate your confidence, but they cannot replicate the internal radius of someone who knows exactly who they are. Because confidence, true confidence, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's measured. It's unshakable. And unshakable is something they've never learned to be. Now watch what happens as the days unfold. They begin moving differently, not strategically, but defensively. They choose their words with unnatural precision around you, as if one misstep might trigger an unseen consequence. Their jokes lose boldness. Their criticism softens. Their interruptions disappear. It's almost amusing how quickly people forget their courage when their illusions are exposed. They'll pretend they're just being respectful. But respect born from fear is not respect. It's surrender dressed in politeness. Even their allies start shifting. The ones who once underestimated you alongside them now step more carefully because power, even symbolic power, reshapes social gravity. People drift towards strength instinctively, and right now, your strength is the most magnetic force in the room. You'll notice new eyes watching you, not with fear, but with fascination. People crave alignment with someone who refuses to fold. And this is where the myth begins to form, not because you crafted it, but because their fear crafted it for you. Every retelling of your move grows more exaggerated. Every whispered theory becomes more dramatic. And every person who hears the story begins to imagine you as someone larger than life, not dangerous, just unpredictable, not reckless, just beyond their understanding, not harmful, just untouchably aware. You've become the symbol of a truth they can't swallow. Real power doesn't announce itself, it reveals itself, and once revealed, it can't be unseen. Now they carry that revelation like a weight. Every time they cross your path, the memory of your move flickers behind their eyes, and they adjust themselves not because you ask them to, but because their nervous system insists on it. They know now that you're playing a different game, operating from a different lens, thinking from a different altitude, and altitude always frightens those who fear heights. But here's the part that solidifies everything. You're not done. Not because you need to prove anything, but because evolution doesn't pause for anyone's comfort. You'll make another move someday, not today, not tomorrow, but precisely when the moment aligns with your purpose. And they know that. It's what keeps them alert. It's what keeps them guessing. It's what keeps them restless. Because the real fear isn't in what you've done. It's in what you're capable of doing next. The unknown is the true battlefield. And in that battlefield, you stand unchallenged. Your first move shook them. Your silence is breaking them. Your next step, whenever it comes, will redefine them. Not because you seek to dominate, but because your presence rewrites every room you enter. And that, my friend, is the kind of power that never needs permission to exist.
Welcome back, homie. Step into the truth, because the atmosphere around your name just shifted into something nobody predicted. People are ready to go to war for you, because you exposed what they were too scared to say. Not war with fists or violence, but a war of truth, a war of courage, a war of finally standing up for something real. A war where the battlefield is emotional honesty, where the weapons are clarity and voice, and where the victory is stepping out of silence. And here's the thing. You didn't ask for this. You didn't rally anyone. You didn't force anyone to choose a side. All you did was speak the truth people were choking on. You said what everyone felt, but no one dared to admit. You named the thing everyone sensed, but kept hidden under politeness and fear. You broke the unspoken rules that kept everyone small, obedient, quiet. And the moment you did that, the room changed. The relationships changed. The energy changed. People changed. Because every time someone finally stands up and says the thing everyone else is whispering internally, it sets off a chain reaction. It wakes people up. It shakes their nervous system. It makes them realize they weren't crazy for feeling what they felt. They just didn't have the courage to say it first. You became the person who said it first. And that's why people are ready to go to war for you. Symbolically, energetically, emotionally. They're ready to defend you. They're ready to stand beside you. They're ready to back you publicly. They're ready to take risks they never would have taken. Because your boldness cracked something in them. Your honesty unlocked theirs. Your courage ignited theirs. Your clarity sharpened theirs. Your voice amplified theirs. You didn't just speak up. You gave them permission to speak. And permission is a powerful thing. It spreads. It multiplies. It creates ripple effects that rewrite the entire emotional landscape of a group. People weren't ready to fight before. They were afraid. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of being isolated. Afraid of being seen as dramatic or too much. Afraid of standing out. But then you stepped into the center of the storm and spoke from a place so raw, so true, so unfiltered that something inside them shifted. Suddenly, silence wasn't comfortable anymore. Silence felt like betrayal, not of you, but of themselves. Because your truth illuminated their truth. Your courage made their fear feel outdated. Your rise made their excuses impossible to justify. You exposed the thing they buried, not with violence, but with clarity. Clarity is the most disruptive force in human psychology. It breaks illusions. It breaks dynamics. It breaks manipulation. It breaks denial. It breaks the emotional structures people cling to. You brought clarity, and clarity always demands a reaction. Some people backed away because the truth scared them. But others, the ones who had been holding in that pressure for years, felt something inside them snap, in a good way, like a chain breaking, like a cage door swinging open, like lungs finally filling after holding their breath for too long. You think they're defending you, but the reality is even deeper. They're defending the version of themselves that you pulled out of hiding. You lit something inside them, and now they're standing with you because you reminded them of who they were before fear muted their spirit. That's why their support feels different. It's not performative. It's not shallow. It's not conditional. It's fierce. It's emotional. It's loyal. It's rooted in truth, not convenience. People don't rally around someone for no reason. They rally because something inside them feels awakened, validated, aligned. You awakened them. It wasn't your confidence. It wasn't your strength. It wasn't your boldness. It was your truth. Truth spoken with that kind of alignment hits the subconscious like a shockwave. It dismantles the psychological walls people build around themselves. It exposes the lies they've been agreeing with just to keep the peace. You didn't break their peace. You broke their silence. And silence was killing them more than any truth ever could. They were tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of holding back. Tired of swallowing their instincts. Tired of protecting people who wouldn't protect them back. Tired of keeping themselves small so others could stay comfortable. But then you walked in with that energy. That grounded, unapologetic, crystal clear energy. And you spoke the one sentence that shattered the facade. And in that moment, something primal woke up inside them. Enough. Enough of hiding. Enough of pretending. Enough of bending. Enough of feeling powerless. Enough of being scared to say the truth out loud. Your voice became the match. Their courage became the flame. Now they're standing with you, like they've been waiting for this moment their whole lives. Not because of you, but because of what you unlocked in them. You made them feel seen. You made them feel understood. You made them feel validated. You made them feel alive. And people will always rally behind the person who brings them back to themselves. But it goes even deeper. they're not just supporting you, they're protecting the truth you exposed. Because once truth has been spoken, it cannot be unspoken. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be erased. And when truth threatens to be buried again, the people it awakened will fight. Not physically, not violently, but energetically, verbally, socially, emotionally. They'll defend the clarity that freed them. You see, before you spoke up, the truth was scattered in their minds like fragments. They felt it, but they couldn't articulate it. They sensed it, but they couldn't justify it. They knew it, but they couldn't express it. Then you came along and said it with precision. You gave their fragments a shape. You gave their confusion a language. You gave their silence a voice. And once truth is given language, it becomes uncontainable. People are ready to go to war for you because they are finally willing to stand for their truth, the one you illuminated. They're not fighting for your ego. They're not fighting for your reputation. They're fighting for the version of themselves that woke up when you spoke. And that awakening, it's powerful. It's contagious. It spreads faster than anything else. One person speaks. 10 others realize they've been thinking the same thing. 50 feel validated. 100 feel empowered. And suddenly, the whole room shifts. Not because of rebellion, because of recognition. Your truth helped them recognize their own. And once a person recognizes truth, they cannot unsee it, cannot unfeel it, cannot unhear it. They will protect it. And by extension, they will protect you. But here's the piece you might not even realize yet. You didn't just expose what they were too scared to say. You exposed what they were too scared to feel. Their frustration, their discomfort, their exhaustion, their intuition, their desire to grow, their desire to break free from emotional chains, their desire to stop being silent just to keep the peace. You gave them permission to feel again. And that is why they're standing behind you with a level of loyalty that shocks even you. People don't stand with someone because they're loud. They stand with someone because they're clear. And your clarity pierced through the fog inside them like a spotlight hitting a locked room. You unlocked them. So now they defend you the same way someone protects the door that led them back to themselves. This isn't adoration. This isn't fandom. This isn't flattery, it's alignment. You aligned with your truth, and in doing so, you aligned others with theirs. That's why they're willing to go to war, to protect the clarity that woke them up. This is the beginning of a shift you can't even measure yet. But here's the part almost nobody fully understands. People aren't rallying behind you because you're loud. They're rallying behind you because you finally gave shape to the truth they've been suffocating under for years. You cracked open something inside them, something they didn't even know was clenched tight. And once it opened, there was no putting it back. What you said, what you exposed, what you made visible, it wasn't a secret. It was a pressure. A collective pressure everyone felt, but pretended wasn't there. And pressure becomes unbearable when you're the only one feeling it. But the moment someone names it out loud, the moment someone points to the invisible weight and says, "This is real," the pressure transforms into unity. You created unity. Not by begging for it. Not by rallying for it. Not by demanding it. Unity formed around you because your truth aligned with the truth in others. And when people see someone finally speak with the clarity they've been swallowing, it awakens something primal in them. A loyalty that doesn't need explanation. A loyalty rooted in recognition. This person just said what I've been dying to say. You didn't just expose the truth, you exposed the silence. And silence, once exposed, becomes impossible to go back to. People lived for years behind emotional curtains. agreeing quietly, disagreeing silently, tolerating things that felt wrong, trying to convince themselves that their intuition was overreacting. They pushed down their instincts, their observations, their discomforts. They talked themselves out of feelings that were screaming inside. But you didn't talk yourself out of anything. You did the opposite. You confirmed everything they were suppressing. And in that confirmation, you woke them up. They realized they weren't alone. They realized they weren't imagining things. They realized their soul wasn't lying to them. They realized their frustration wasn't unreasonable. They realized their fear wasn't weakness. It was awareness. You validated the quietest part of their spirit. And people will protect the one who validates their spirit with a loyalty that feels almost mythic. It's not that they want conflict. It's that they want liberation. Liberation from the emotional weight they've been carrying silently. And you became the symbol of that liberation. You didn't ask for the role. You didn't fight for the role. You didn't even know you were stepping into it. But the moment your truth hit the air, it struck something in people. Not just thoughts, not just opinions. It hit their nervous systems. They felt it, like a pulse, like a shift, like oxygen returning to a room they didn't know was suffocating them. People don't rally behind words. They rally behind energy, behind clarity, behind someone who shows them a piece of themselves they forgot how to see. Your truth didn't create sides. It revealed them. There were people who had been waiting for someone to say the thing you said. Waiting so long, they lost hope that anyone ever would. They learned to stay quiet, keep peace, swallow discomfort. They convinced themselves silence was maturity, even though it felt like imprisonment. But when you broke the silence, they broke with you. And that breaking felt like freedom. A psychological, emotional freedom. Not from others, but from themselves, from their fear, from their hesitation, from their self-doubt, from the part of them that accepted too little for too long. When you spoke, you didn't just express your truth, you activated theirs. This is why people are ready to go to war for you, symbolically, emotionally, because standing with you feels like standing with their own soul for the first time in years. You didn't give them a movement. You gave them permission. Permission to see clearly. Permission to speak honestly. Permission to feel deeply. Permission to refuse silence. Permission to outgrow old roles. Permission to be someone they had been hiding. And once someone gets permission to be themselves, they do not let go of the person who unlocked that. You broke the wall inside them. So they're ready to protect you the way they protect the part of themselves you healed. But the shift goes even deeper. See, when people carry unspoken truth inside them, it becomes heavy. Heavier than they ever admit. And most of them don't realize how heavy it is until someone lifts a piece of it for them. That's what your words did. You didn't remove their burden. You revealed their burden. You held up the weight they were pretending not to feel, and for the first time in a long time, they could breathe without guilt. You didn't just speak what they were scared to say. You spoke it in a way that made them feel brave instead of ashamed. Bravery is contagious. Bravery spreads like fire when someone finally lights the first match. And you were that match. You sparked courage in people who spent years convincing themselves they weren't allowed to have it. You reminded them that truth doesn't make you dangerous. It makes you alive. Now they're feeling emotions they haven't felt in years. Pride, relief, strength, alignment, conviction, clarity. These feelings create loyalty that can't be broken by gossip, negativity, or pressure. People aren't defending you because they think you're perfect. They're defending you because you made them feel something real, something that shook them, something that woke them up. something that pulled them out of the fog they were trapped in, something that reminded them they weren't crazy, weak, or dramatic. They were truthful, just scared. Your truth was the spark. Their awakening was the fire. And now, they're not afraid to stand with you. They're afraid of going back to the silence you broke. They don't want to return to the version of themselves that stayed quiet. They don't want to return to the rooms where everyone pretended. They don't want to return to the emotional suffocation of staying small. Your truth became a doorway, and they walked through it with their entire chest. People don't fight for you because of who you are. They fight for you because of who they became because of you. And once a truth frees someone, they will protect that truth with everything they have. Some will protect you publicly. Some will protect you quietly. Some will protect you energetically. Some will protect you silently in rooms you'll never walk into. But all of them are standing with you for the same reason. You didn't expose the world. You exposed their courage. And courage is the one thing a person will never lose again once they've tasted it. This is why the air feels charged around your name. This is why conversations shift when you enter a room. This is why people feel pulled toward you with intensity they never expected. They didn't choose you. They chose the truth you unlocked inside themselves. You just happened to be the one brave enough to speak first. And now, you're standing in the middle of something that doesn't even feel like a moment anymore. It feels like a shift. A tectonic shift in the emotional landscape of everyone who's been watching you, listening to you, learning from you without even realizing it. Their loyalty didn't appear out of nowhere. It rose from the place inside them where they've been carrying truths they never dared to say out loud. You pulled those truths to the surface. You dragged them into the light. You gave shape to the feelings they spent years trying to compress. And now that everything is out in the open, nobody wants to go back into the dark. That's why they're standing with you. That's why they're ready to go to war, symbolically, for you. Not because you're their hero, not because you're their leader, not because you're some figure they're blindly loyal to. It's because you gave them a version of themselves they refuse to lose again. You didn't rally people. Your truth rallied them for you. Your courage sparked theirs. Your honesty triggered theirs. Your clarity awakened theirs. People don't gather behind someone unless something in them resonates at the deepest level. And what resonates is this. You said the thing they were too scared to say. And in doing so, you made them feel brave for the first time in a very long time. Bravery is addictive, not the loud kind, the internal kind. The kind that makes a person lift their chin and admit, even silently, I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending. I'm done swallowing my truth. I'm done staying quiet for people who wouldn't silence themselves for me. Your words didn't start a battle. Your words ended a pattern. The pattern of silence. The pattern of shrinking. The pattern of letting fear speak louder than intuition. The pattern of accepting what never felt right. People aren't rallying for you. They're rallying for the courage they discovered because of you. It's not about your image. It's about their liberation. You unlocked something they thought was dead. That small, flickering flame inside them that once wanted to stand tall, speak truth, live boldly, and stop apologizing for being awake. You didn't rescue them. You reminded them they didn't need rescuing. You reminded them they had a voice. You reminded them they had intuition. You reminded them they had the right to feel what they feel. You reminded them that truth isn't dangerous. Silence is. And once someone understands that, they will never protect silence again. They'll protect the person who broke it. That's the weight of what you've done. You didn't tear down walls. You opened doors. You didn't fight anyone. You freed everyone. You didn't divide them. You clarified them. Truth always clarifies. Clarity always polarizes. Polarization always reveals who stands for what, and who stands with who. You didn't ask anyone to pick a side. You simply forced them to stop pretending they were neutral. People who were tired of hiding stepped toward you. People who were afraid of truth stepped away. People who were starving for honesty stepped up. People who were chained by fear stepped back. But those who stepped toward you, they stepped with their whole chest, because standing next to truth feels like oxygen. And once someone breathes real oxygen, they'll never suffocate again just to make other people comfortable. Your presence became that oxygen. You didn't become their leader. You became their catalyst. You became the moment they realized they were done living quietly. People don't defend you because they worship you. They defend you because they don't want to lose the version of themselves they found by listening to you. That's loyalty on a level most people will never understand. The loyalty that comes from awakening, from clarity, from alignment, from emotional truth. Your name isn't just a name anymore. It's a reminder of the moment they stopped swallowing their spirit. A reminder of the moment they realized they were never alone in what they felt. A reminder of the moment someone finally said it, and the world didn't collapse. It expanded. You expanded them. You expanded their courage. You expanded their voice. You expanded their sense of self. That's why they stand with you. Not because of who you are, but because of who you made them remember they could be. People are ready to go to war for you, not with fists, but with honesty. Not with violence, but with truth. Not with chaos, but with clarity. They're ready to defend the awakening you sparked. Because once a person tastes freedom, real inner freedom, they'll never protect the silence that once imprisoned them. They'll protect the door you opened. They'll protect the voice you unlocked. They'll protect the courage you revived. And that is why the energy around your name feels so charged now. You didn't start a movement, you triggered one. And once truth is triggered, it never goes back to sleep.
Hello, my quiet thunderwalkers, my pulse-bending anomalies who slip between moments like shadows learning how to breathe. Lean in for a second, because something old and trembling has begun whispering your name again. You feel it, don't you? That low, invisible vibration humming under your ribs. That eerie pulse threading through the spine of the world, syncing itself to the rhythm of your existence. Not a quake of earth, not a collapse of mountains. No, this is the planet adjusting itself to accommodate you. Your presence has grown too heavy for silence, too large for anonymity, too luminous for the structures that once pretended to contain you. And now, the world trembles not from destruction, but from realization. Your name has outgrown sound. It has become a frequency. It rings in boardrooms like a forbidden prophecy. It circulates in classrooms like an unapproved lesson. It slips into political speeches where it doesn't belong, bending the narrative until even the most scripted tongues falter. Your identity is not spoken anymore. It erupts. It mutates through culture like a rumor with too much truth inside it to die. Every time someone tries to bury it, it resurfaces bigger, sharper, and more undeniable than before. You didn't chase attention. Attention became gravitationally obligated to orbit you. And now, my Titan, the world is beginning to panic in ways it doesn't know how to articulate. They don't fear you because of anything you've done. They fear you because of the mirror you've become. Your existence forces them to confront everything they aren't. Their stability dissolves in your outline. Their identities tremble under the weight of your presence. They try to categorize you, label you, reduce you, but you slip through all their definitions like water refusing to be held by shaking hands. Because you are not an event. You are a shift. Look around. Do you notice how conversations warp when you enter them? How laughter stutters? How opinions crack? You don't even need to speak. Your name walks into rooms before you do, rearranging the emotional furniture without permission. People who once felt tall shrink around you. People who once felt secure begin to second-guess their entire philosophy. And the bravest thing they can manage is pretending not to notice. But they do. Oh, they do. Even in their denial, they betray themselves. The twitch in their tone, the tremble in their fingers, the octave drop in their voice when someone mentions you. They don't realize it, but the fear is not of you. It is of the recognition that their world is too small to contain someone like you. They don't fear your action, they fear your existence. Because your existence rearranges the psychological skyline, institutions feel it too. The old frameworks built from outdated certainties begin to wobble, like ancient architecture meeting its first true storm. Your influence travels like weather, unpredictable, atmospheric, electrically charged. A symbolic tremor that shakes ideologies rather than buildings. They can't pinpoint the source. They can't locate the epicenter. They can only feel the aftershocks of your evolution rippling through every layer of society. And the strangest part? None of it was intentional. You simply became undeniable. This is why governments whisper about you behind closed doors, not because you threaten their safety, but because you threaten their narratives. They know that once a name becomes a phenomenon, it stops obeying authority. It stops belonging to the individual who carries it. It becomes public property rewired into culture, myth, and symbolic resonance. And yours has begun rewriting itself across continents without your permission. News anchors stumble when your identity appears in their scripts. Commentators discuss you with the trembling politeness they usually reserve for storms they can't predict. Social media loses its rhythm every time someone invokes you, and in the quiet places between headlines, between breaths, between thoughts, your name spreads like a forbidden truth that refuses to stay hidden. People interpret you as chaos, but that's only because you expose the fractures in the world they thought was stable. They call you unpredictable, but that's because your growth outpaces their understanding. They call you dangerous, but that's because your evolution reveals the fragility of their illusions. You are the psychological earthquake, not because you destroy, but because you reveal what was already cracked. And revelation is always louder than destruction. Your presence generates cultural aftershocks. Artists mimic you, thinkers debate you. Entire demographics style their identity after the fragments they understand about you. They try to replicate your tone, your posture, your aura, but imitation collapses under the weight of the original. Because what you carry cannot be borrowed. It must be earned through metamorphosis. And metamorphosis is a language only a few souls on this earth ever truly learn. Still, the world tries. They rehearse your name like it's an answer to a test they were never taught. They repeat it in awe or fear or envy or denial, but they repeat it. That's the important part. Because repetition becomes ritual, and ritual becomes legacy. You have become the ritual. The resonance of your identity pulses through digital networks like a signal too strong to suppress. Algorithms amplify you without understanding why. People search for you without knowing what they're searching for. Your name becomes a gravitational pull, dragging conversations into its orbit. Even strangers who've never met you feel an instinctive reaction when they hear it, a jolt of emotion that doesn't belong to them, as if the world implanted the reaction for them. That is influence at its highest form, when the world feels something before it understands why. And the Psychological shaking grows, not from chaos, but from awakening. You have become the symbolic fracture line where old beliefs split open. You didn't cause collapse, you revealed the weakness in the foundation. You didn't break their structures, you removed the veil that hid their cracks. You didn't summon chaos, you exposed it. This is why the world trembles. Because your existence is a reminder that a single person, fully awakened, can become a cultural tremor strong enough to shift the balance of humanity's self-perception. You are living proof that identity can become atmosphere, that reputation can become weather, that presence can become gravity. And gravity does not ask permission. Gravity commands. So now every continent, every industry, every ideology finds itself adjusting slowly, reluctantly to the force you've become. They can't fight you, because how do you fight a phenomenon that exists inside the collective psyche? How do you silence a name that has become a frequency? How do you cage a presence that has evolved into resonance? You don't, you can't, they can't. All they can do is witness it, and witnessing turns into awe. Awe turns into fixation. Fixation turns into myth. And myth is the first stage of immortality. That's why the world shakes not from fear of destruction, but from fear of transformation. You are the shift they weren't prepared for, the disruption they can't contain, the possibility they can't deny. They're not afraid of you. They're afraid of what you reveal about them. And that, my Titan, is the beginning of your era. Continue the tremor. You feel it intensifying now, don't you? That strange, quiet pressure rising behind the world's collective heartbeat, as if every continent is inhaling at the same time, waiting for you to exhale. It's subtle, almost delicate, yet powerful enough to bend the emotional atmosphere wherever your name travels. And the irony is almost poetic. This pressure isn't built by what you've done, it's built by what they believe you can do. The speculation alone is louder than any action. You've entered a phase where your silence weighs more than others' speeches, where your presence takes up more space than their entire institutions, and they're only now realizing how unprepared they were for someone like you. Because once a name breaks out of its boundaries, it becomes something else entirely. Something they can't categorize, can't predict, can't digest without choking on their own insecurities. Your identity has become a fracture line in their social psychology. Every time your name circulates, another illusion crumbles, not because you're tearing anything down, but because your existence exposes where they were already weak. And so the trembling grows not in the ground beneath their feet, but in the confidence beneath their voices. People who once spoke boldly now hesitate mid-sentence. People who once laughed easily now falter in the presence of your reputation. Every conversation that once flowed without friction now stutters because your influence has rearranged the emotional hierarchy. Your myth stands in the doorway of their thoughts, and they can't think around you anymore. Even the ones who mock you, the ones who pretend indifference, they are the most affected. They're the ones refreshing timelines at 3 a.m., searching for updates, for proof, for confirmation of the story they're pretending not to care about. They're obsessed with the idea of you, even if that obsession tastes like resentment. Because deep down they know the truth. Hate is not the opposite of influence. Hate is evidence of influence. And no matter how loudly they deny it, their obsession continues, feeding your myth like oxygen feeds fire. But the real spectacle begins when the institutions join the chorus. Look closer. Government advisors whisper in corners, glancing over their shoulders, like children afraid of being caught talking about monsters past bedtime. Analysts try to predict the trajectory of your influence as if it's a storm pattern. Universities slip your name into classroom debates, not as a case study, but as a phenomenon they can't fully explain. Media commentators try to decode you with urgency that borders on desperation because they know one thing for certain: your narrative cannot be controlled by traditional means. You've become the symbolic glitch in their system, the unplanned variable, the unpredictable catalyst. They thought society was stable, predictable, neatly divided into categories like threat, celebrity, leader, rebel. But you don't fit into any category. You don't follow their formulas. You break their formulas simply by existing outside of them. And nothing terrifies institutions more than something they can't predict. They track trends, they track signals, they track data. But how do you track a woe phenomenon that evolves faster than the tools built to measure it? This is why the tremor spreads deeper into the emotional architecture of society itself. People feel the shift before they understand it. They sense the imbalance in conversations. They detect the rising tension when your name slides into a discussion. Even strangers who know nothing about you recognize the weight of your identity, as if the world has been subconsciously preparing them for you long before they knew you existed. And that is the highest form of power, when people react to you without fully knowing why. The cultural atmosphere bends around you like light bending around a gravitational anomaly. Even those who dismiss you fall under your influence, because influence doesn't require consent. Influence requires resonance. And you've become the resonant frequency humanity didn't expect but can no longer ignore. Watch how they respond. Leaders avoid mentioning you directly, not out of disrespect, but out of fear that saying your name might amplify your reach. Public figures speak about uncontrollable forces, disruptive identities, cultural earthquakes, never naming you, yet always hinting at you. They speak around you, not because they want to, but because they're scared their audience will echo your name louder than the message they're trying to push. And echo it will. Because echo is what happens when a name becomes bigger than the speaker. Meanwhile, online spaces mutate with your influence. Threads spiral. Algorithms reshape themselves. Discussions unravel. Every debate inevitably collapses into arguments about you. People try to redirect the conversation, but it snaps back to you like a compass needle forced to point north. Entire communities are reshaped by the gravitational pull of your myth, and each time someone tries to distance themselves from your name, they only spread it further, because resistance draws attention, and attention is the bloodstream of legends. But here is where it gets beautifully paradoxical. You haven't demanded any of this. You haven't stood on a stage and proclaimed dominance. You haven't shouted for the world to notice. You haven't chased their validation. Your influence grew from silence, from focus, from evolution. And it's precisely that quiet, disciplined transformation that now screams across the planet like thunder. The world is trembling because you didn't ask for power, you became power. Power reshapes itself around the one who embodies it. Power flows toward the one whose presence cannot be diluted. You have become the blueprint of a new kind of influence, one that operates from the inside out, one that bypasses fear and enters fascination, one that bypasses strategy and enters inevitability. People try to explain you logically, scientifically, philosophically. They try to break down why your influence is spreading so fast, but each explanation they give only scratches the surface. Because this isn't logic, this isn't science, this isn't strategy, this is human psychology colliding with a phenomenon it has no preparation for. Your emergence signals something humanity has forgotten how to process, that one person can alter the emotional rhythm of the world without lifting a weapon, without raising a hand, without breaking a single law, by simply being, by evolving, by surpassing the version of yourself the world was comfortable with. And now that you've outgrown the mold they built for you, They don't know how to handle someone who breaks the script. This is why the symbolic shaking grows stronger. It grows in their uncertainty. It grows in their envy. It grows in their obsession. It grows in their fear of being left behind. You have become a psychological tide rising too quickly for them to outrun. And tides never announce themselves, they simply arrive and rewrite the coastline. Your name is rewriting the coastline of culture. It's rewriting conversations, rewiring instincts, reshaping the subconscious of millions. They may not admit it, but they feel it every time your name appears on their timeline, every time your identity is discussed in circles you've never stepped into, every time someone whispers your story as if telling a ghost tale. The shake is real, but the ground remains still. The chaos is massive, but the world remains intact. The destruction is symbolic, emotional, perceptual, and that's what makes it so unstoppable. Because buildings can be rebuilt, perceptions cannot. Once your name enters a culture's bloodstream, it becomes impossible to remove. It becomes a reflex, a reference point, a myth. And myths don't fade. Myths grow. Myths evolve. Myths outlive generations. And you, my Titan, are no longer living inside their world. You're living inside their minds. The tremor they feel is the irreversible shift of culture rearranging itself around someone it cannot ignore, and now the world understands it too late. You are not passing through this era, you are defining it, and they tremble because evolution is always loudest to the ones who refuse to evolve. And you didn't just evolve, you transcended. But now, my restless Titan, here is the truth they are terrified to say aloud. The trembling isn't spreading because of what you do next. It's spreading because they finally understand there is no next to predict. You've become a phenomenon without a pattern, an influence without a blueprint, a presence that refuses to shrink back into the small shapes they once tried to force you into. And once a presence breaks its mold, the world spends the rest of its existence trying and failing to rebuild it. That's why their voices crack when they speak your name. That's why their strategies collapse before they're fully formed. They're trying to stabilize something that was never meant to be still. They're trying to categorize something that was never meant to fit inside a label. You've become the reminder that unpredictability isn't chaos. It's evolution, and evolution can't be reversed. Your name doesn't rise because people choose it. It rises because the world can no longer function without referencing you. You've become the metaphor they use to explain fear, ambition, disruption, identity, rebellion, transformation. Even when they resist you, they speak in your language. Even when they deny you, they turn toward your shadow. They orbit you without realizing they've already given up the center. So let the trembling continue. Let your name stretch across cities, screens, conversations, and subconscious thoughts. Let the world debate you, misinterpret you, admire you, resent you. It doesn't matter. Every reaction feeds the same truth. You've crossed the threshold from individual to inevitability, and inevitability doesn't need applause. It doesn't need permission. It simply exists. You are the resonance they can't escape, the myth they can't rewrite, the presence that refuses to fade. The world shakes not because it fears your destruction, but because it finally recognizes your permanence.